What is going on, you sexy bitches? Welcome back to the Rantin review here. We're talking today about what everybody's been talking about, the Snyder Cut. The infamous Snyder Cut that's been all over the internet, that's been a meme and a hashtag and billboards and fan-driven stuff. And yeah, it finally came out last Thursday, HBO Max. I did get my 1 month subscription to HBO Max because I'm not going to keep it that long. Really expensive too, about $15, but was it worth it for the Snyder Cut of Justice League? Well, before we get to that though, I want to let you guys know that there's a bunch of different goodies, free goodies, especially if you're new to my channel, down in the description box below. I've got a 30-day free trial for Amazon Prime. If you have never used Amazon Prime, get free shipping. There's the chance for you to get up to 2 free stocks from Webull, since the investment space is going crazy these days. And I also have some crypto links for you as well. You can get up to possibly $250 worth of crypto from a BlockFi. And while you're down there, hit the subscription button and the notification bell, the like button and all that good stuff. Help out the YouTube algorithm. Help other people be able to find this video and this channel. I appreciate it. Did I like the Snyder Cut? Was it worth $15? I would say yes. For me, as a person who, and this is my history with the DCEU, they don't even call it that anymore. But I've always felt that they missed the boat with the DCEU. I think they started off okay. Man of Steel, I didn't mind as a movie. It didn't really set the world on fire. Batman v Superman had a lot of hype. A lot of people had trouble with the tone. But by the time the Justice League movie came out and all of the backstory, and for those of you, I'm not going to recap the whole thing because we'd be here all night, but the unfortunate story was Zack Snyder having a family tragedy, which was dedicated, by the way, at the end of the film, the Snyder Cut, and having to hand the reins of the film over to Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon. So we got the Justice League, as many people have called it in the entertainment world, which was, now looking at the Snyder Cut, a complete hack job. I mean, there was some stuff that was cut out that we now see was actually supposed to be in the movie that you're just like, I don't understand why they did it. Until you kind of think about it, they brought in Joss Whedon because he did well with Avengers, and it was, for a while, Avengers was the highest grossing film of all time. So obviously they wanted to get some of that magic in the DC universe. And this is just basically not really on Joss Whedon as much. I mean, some of it is, some of the creative, the Russian family at the end. I'm so glad Zack Snyder took that out, because that was one of those Joss Whedonisms that are not necessary for these kind of movies. But it was really on the suits. The suits at Warner Brothers, they saw the response and the reaction to Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. Were like, we can't go with this Joss Whedon, Christopher Nolan, darker tone stuff. We gotta brighten everything up. Just make it like Marvel. Just make it like Marvel. And I'm guarantee you that's what the execs were thinking, because unfortunately the people who control the money in Hollywood have still to this day have very little creative foresight or vision. It's all about the numbers. And yes, you do need those people so you can maintain these businesses to allow us to have these movies, because unfortunately, some of the more artsy people aren't very good with managing money, so it's a symbiotic relationship. But when one gets too much power, and in this case it was the suits, things can go off the rails. But in some respects too, if you let the creative people just do whatever they want to without any kind of, sense that, hey, you spent $200 million, we need to make this back somehow, some way, so it's got to be appealing to at least more than just, 100,000 people who know the origin story of all of this and know who Steppenwolf is. Yeah, they need to do something. There needs to be a balance between the two. I will say though, from a purely artistic filmmaking, blockbuster creative level, man, this was really, really good. I would put it up there now. It's tied with Wonder Woman for my favorite DC movie, which there's not a lot of competition there, because most of the DC movies I have not enjoyed, most of them, maybe 3 or 4. But this one is really up there. It just is an experiment to see how different a director's vision, a few lines, some scenes, some adjustments, some tones, some coloring, some music. Some of the music that Zack Snyder chose and rescored with Junkie XL in his movie was fantastic. The Flash scene, our introduction to him, which happened like an hour into the movie, but it was worth it. That introduction was fantastic, and his character was not an annoying goofball in this film. In fact, he has a pretty significant role near the end of the film. I'm not giving away spoilers in this one. Same thing goes for Cyborg. Cyborg's story is really fleshed out. My favorite character in the whole movie, actually. Whereas in the original one, he was just, Tin Man brother. He flies around in other boxes and things. In this one, we get so much more about him, about his family, about what kind of a heart he has. Minor spoiler here, but it's nothing significant. But there is a part in the movie where there is a woman who's a single mother, and she's a waitress, and he's looking at all the surveillance footage of how hard a time she's having and getting evicted, not having enough money, not getting enough tips. And he, since Cyborg can control basically anything electronic, just gifts her $100,000, which is so awesome because that's something like a lot of us will probably do. We all say that, like, man, if I had like all the money in the world and I saw some poor, single mother like that, I'd be struggling. I'd be like, here's $100,000, get your life together, That was pretty, that one scene alone endeared me enough to Cyborg, complete with all the rest of the stuff that happened in the film. Wonder Woman was pretty good in this film. She wasn't too much difference in her and the Justice League, except not as many gratuitous butt shots and boob shots, and the Flash doesn't basically dry hump her in the middle of a battle. The Superman thing is played up a lot better in this one. I always like the way they did it anyway, and I understand what it is. I've seen a lot of people complaining about it. I'm like, it's a resurrection. First off, the storyline's been around forever. It's a resurrection story. Superman is clearly a Jesus character, and Zack Snyder makes no bones about doing that. When he returns and flies out into space, he holds his hands up in a crucifix with the sun beaming in his silhouette and stuff. He rose from the grave. This is entirely a Jesus analogy here with the Superman character in this movie, and I don't know, maybe some people have a bug up their butt about anything religious. Maybe that's why they don't like it, but whatever. I like the Superman story and the way they handled it, and especially when he came back. Compared to the first movie, way better than it was. And then the old version, he basically came in and just beat up Steppenwolf and it was done. But this one, again, just the subtle differences just make all the difference in the tone and the feel and how these things come across. Speaking of Steppenwolf, yes, the CGI was much better. I like the look in the Zack Snyder version a hell of a lot better than what we saw in the theatrical cut in 2017. And they also, it's not just a cosmetic look, they give some motivation. Basically Steppenwolf, again, I'm not going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen the movie, but there is more than him just showing up and being a bad guy. He's got some motivation behind it. And now there is another character that does kind of take that role of just being the evil bad guy, but since they're not really central to the story, and they are kind of like this overarching shadow, and if you've heard any spoilers, you know what I'm talking about, or who I'm talking about. It doesn't matter that character is like an overarching, carbon copy of a villain. But Steppenwolf being able to do something else besides just being the bad guy was, it helped the movie out. A lot of the extended scenes helped the movie out. There's some gratuitous slow motion scenes. There's some jokes that, the jokes actually are better than in the original version, but there's still some jokes that don't really work. Some of the gluttony and some of the CGI special effects, especially in the end, are a little bit much, but overall, this is an experience. It's a 4-hour epic. It is the Lord of the Rings of superhero movies. It is a big, big movie with a lot of story in it, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of characters. I might go into that at some point in time because there is another version of this coming out. But that brings me to the biggest point of this whole story about the Zack Snyder Cut, and that is the unfortunate news that number one, Zack Snyder said he's kind of done with this. He wanted to finish this movie. And it was for autumn. Unfortunately, his daughter who passed away, and we're not going to get into that. But he doesn't. I think he said he's done with it. They may draw some comic books or make some comic books out of what the continuing story would have been for Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 in the SnyderVerse, but apparently Warner Brothers has also confirmed that the SnyderVerse is not going to continue. I wonder how long that's going to last, because I wonder how much they got from, again, these $15 subscriptions to HBO Go just to see the Justice League. If they made bank off of it, they invested $70 million in and doing this re-release of the movie. At $15 a pop, I mean, you get 1 million people to sign up to HBO Go just to see Justice League, the Snyder Cut, you doubled your money. So we'll see how that works out in the end and what the end result is. But as of right now, there are no plans officially to continue the Zack Snyder universe, which I absolutely want them to continue the Zack Snyder universe. It is the DC that I want to see. And some people may disagree with this, but for me, the reason the DC movies didn't work, especially that last Justice League one, is that it's not Marvel. And they tried to make it like Marvel. It's not. DC and Marvel are two different things. And I'm not even a big comic book reader, and I never have been, but I know enough about the comic book universe to understand, in my personal opinion, and I've heard other people who are big comic book nerds say this, you know, Marvel is more about ordinary people for the most part, except for like Thor and a couple others. But it's mostly ordinary people who get extraordinary powers and have to deal with that and live with that and understand and grow with that. Whereas DC, it's more like they're Greek gods. In fact, that's very also heavily implied in here, not also with the Jesus analogies, but, you know, they call themselves the old gods fighting Darkseid. Darkseid's a new god. If you look at the Justice League is more like, instead of like the all-star team that the Avengers is, the Justice League is more like Mount Olympus. So Zack Snyder approaching it that way, like this was a modern day, like real gritty Greek kind of tragedy or Greek story or something. That's what the DC universe needed. That's what it is. And I absolutely love the take that he took on it, and hopefully people change their minds and we'll get Justice League 2 and 3 in the future according to what Zack Snyder wants to do and allow the guy to do whatever the hell he wants to do with that franchise if he decides he wants to do it again. But I want to know what you guys thought about Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Did you watch all 4 hours? How long did it take you? What are your impressions about the best characters, the worst things, the things that were improved, or maybe you like the original one better? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until then, I will see you guys for more news, reviews, and rumors here on the Rantin Review. Have a good day.